In this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips for bookkeeping for general contractors. This video is going to be perfect for you if you're a general contractor just starting your own business, or maybe you're a bookkeeper and you're working with general contractors, or maybe you are an office manager for a general contractor and you're struggling to keep up with their bookkeeping. And not only is this video good for general contractors, it's also good for landscapers, roofers, plumbers, electricians, and pretty much anybody else who does work that's similar to a general contractor. If you do need help with your bookkeeping or business in general, there is actually a link in the description of this video. You can schedule a one-on-one meeting with me anytime. I'd be happy to help. Okay, tip number 1, and this should be done in the very beginning: use a separate bank account. This will keep everything so much more organized. It'll make your bookkeeping a lot easier. You really need to get a separate business checking account. And whenever you do this, make sure all of your business transactions flow through your business checking account, and then keep all of your personal transactions going through your personal bank account. I promise you, it might seem like more work in the beginning, but in the long run, it makes everything infinitely easier and more organized and more accurate. Okay, similar concept to the separate bank account. Also get a business credit card to keep everything separate. And then also you want to get a business credit card that has good rewards, and obviously you need to pay it off every single month in full because credit card interest is really high. But if you're a general contractor, you're probably spending a ton of money on supplies. So you can get a lot of great rewards from credit cards. Like I know American Express, Capital One, and Chase, they all offer sometimes 1.5% cashback or 2% cashback. So it might not be a lot, but it's literally free money at the end of the day, and you can provide a cushion for your cash flow for at least 20 or 30 days. So if you buy something today, you might not have to pay it off until the next time your credit card is due. So that gives you a 20 to 30 day cushion for cash flow. Okay, step number 3, use QuickBooks. The subscription costs anywhere from $30 to $100 a month, which might seem like an expensive software, especially if you're just getting started, but I promise you it makes your bookkeeping a lot easier. It makes everything more accurate, and if you ever end up hiring a bookkeeper or giving your financial records over to a CPA or an accountant, everybody is using QuickBooks. I promise you it'll be worth the expense. Get it as soon as you start your business. Okay, number 4, get a W-9 from your subs before you pay them. This is so important because you need to give a 1099 at the end of the year to everybody who does work for you. These can be somebody who is a subcontractor, or maybe a bookkeeper, or an attorney, or somebody cleaning your office, or somebody providing you advertising and marketing. The list goes on, but if anybody provides you services, an individual or a business, get a W-9 from them. You could go to the IRS website and download Form W-9 and send it to all of your subs. And the key here is get this information before you pay them, because there's a ton of shady people out there who don't want to pay taxes, so they'll do work for you. You'll pay them $1,000 and then you'll never hear from them ever again. And there are penalties and fines from the IRS if they find out that you fail to issue a 1099 to vendors and contractors who deserve a 1099 at the end of the year. So make sure you hold all the leverage before you pay them. So, hey, listen, John Smith, I'm sorry, I can't pay you until you give me your W-9. It's just a good practice to get into in the very beginning. Okay, step number 5, develop a process for paying contractors and vendors. So I see a lot of my roofers and landscapers, they're always scrambling. I know you guys are always so busy, you're out in the field, you're actually struggling to find legitimate workers who are actually gonna show up on time. I understand that it's a struggle, but you need to develop a process in the beginning, because it might be easy now to pay this guy through Venmo and that guy through Cash App and just throw $500 cash to this guy. It might seem easy now, but as your business grows and as you get more subcontractors and more people working for you, it's going to turn into a bookkeeping nightmare if you're just using all these different methods of paying people. So develop a process for paying people now in the beginning. That way, as you onboard new subcontractors and new vendors, they are already used to this payment process. No, sorry, I don't pay by cash. No, sorry, I don't use Venmo, I don't use PayPal. I can either mail you a check or I could pay you ACH direct deposit. And a lot of business checking accounts, a lot of business banks offer a very simple, very easy to use, and very affordable method for paying people through ACH direct deposit. It's usually called cash management or bill pay or treasury management. Wherever you're doing your business banking, just talk to the bank and say, hey, I want to open up an account where I can do cash management and I can send people ACH direct deposit. All you need is the vendor or the contractor's banking information, like their account number and their routing number, and then you can initiate an ACH direct deposit straight from your account to their account. It's so much easier that way. First of all, you're not dealing with 5 different apps on your phone, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. You're not dealing with all those different apps. And plus, that way you don't have to mail them a check. You don't have to worry about the check getting lost in the mail or them, taking 2 or 3 weeks to cash the check. It's just so easy. The money usually shows up next day. So if you process the payment today, it'll show up in their account tomorrow, and it's usually as cheap as 5 or 7 cents per transaction, which is a lot cheaper than a stamp and an envelope. Okay, step number 6. This is so important. I can't tell you how many times I see guys coming to me with $200,000 in outstanding invoices, and they're struggling to stay afloat because they just don't have cash flow. And all of this comes down to you tracking your invoices and managing your accounts receivable. So I mentioned already, get QuickBooks Online. That will make it so simple for you to track your invoices. So as soon as you get a new customer, you go into QuickBooks Online, you create the invoice, and then you can actually send the invoice straight from QuickBooks to your customer's email. And you can also use QuickBooks Payment Processor, and then your customer can pay directly through the invoice. It makes it so super simple. You can set up automatic reminders through QuickBooks. So hey, like on the due date of this invoice, they'll get an automatic reminder. If the invoice is 7 days late, they'll get an automatic reminder. And you need to follow through with your open outstanding invoices. Be ruthless, be relentless, because you are providing a service. You've got to pay your guys. You're working hard every single day. The last thing you want is for Billy Bob down the street to not pay his invoice. It's incredibly frustrating. So be ruthless and relentless, tracking down open outstanding invoices, send them emails, give them phone calls, show up at their place of business if you have to. Whatever you do, if the money is owed to you, you got to track it down. And then you need to manage your accounts receivable in your QuickBooks software. So whenever you finally do receive the payment, it's very important that you close out the invoice and then you match the bank deposit to the corresponding sales receipt in QuickBooks. That way you can actually look at your accounts receivable aging detail and it's accurate, and you can see, okay, these invoices are open, these invoices have been paid. Now you have actionable data that you can look at and say, okay, I've got to call these 5 people and track down these invoices. I see a lot of times people have invoices open from 2021 and 2022 and they're not able to utilize their accounts receivable aging detail report because it's not accurate. So you got to track your invoices, get paid, but also manage it on the back end in your internal software so that you can actually track the open outstanding invoices. Okay, we got 2 more tips here. Tip number 7, analyze your project profitability. This is huge. You've got a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out, and obviously you want to have financial statements of profit and loss for your business as a whole, but you can also analyze individual projects and you can see how profitable they were. That way, in the future, you can look, okay, these types of projects were more profitable, these types of projects, not so much. Maybe you do a lot of kitchens and maybe you do a lot of fences. So you want to check your project profitability on all of your kitchens and then also check the profitability on all of your fences. And it's pretty difficult to do this, but it's also kind of simple. You just got to be organized. So it's difficult because it is an extra step. So now whenever you're doing your bookkeeping, not only is every transaction being categorized as insurance or job supplies or contractor labor or office supplies, now you have to go a step further and you have to say, okay, now this was job supplies for John Smith's kitchen, or this was contractor labor for Billy Bob's fence. So now you have to take it a step further and you have to track the individual transactions and allocate them to a project. That way, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can actually see, okay, I received $5,000 for this fence. I ended up paying out $1,000 in supplies and $2,000 in labor. Okay, cool. I actually ended up profiting $1,000 on this fence, but it will be impossible for you to know that if you're not tracking the project profitability on a transaction by transaction basis. But this can be incredibly useful so that you can analyze project profitability and hey, I'm not making enough money. My profit margins are too low. Next month, I've got to increase my prices. So now instead of charging $5,000 for that particular fence, I got to charge $6,000 for that fence, and I have the data to back it up. Okay, last tip here. Tip number 8, do bookkeeping weekly or hire somebody. I can't tell you how many times people come to me with 6 months of bookkeeping that's not been done. So now not only are they stressed out because they have a ton of bookkeeping to do, but also they have no data. They can't track their open outstanding accounts receivable. They can't track their project profitability because they have no data. So they're stressed out and they have to do a ton of bookkeeping all at once. You can alleviate all that stress. You can actually have accurate data to make informed decisions to grow your business. You just got to keep up with your bookkeeping on a weekly basis. So pick one day of the week. Monday usually makes the most sense. Monday, 8 a.m., literally book it in your calendar so that nobody can schedule a consultation or a meeting with you. Every single Monday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., I am in my QuickBooks. I'm looking at my bank account. I'm reconciling accounts. I'm categorizing transactions. I'm creating client agreements, or I'm looking at signed documents. Like, seriously, block out 2 hours a week for office tasks. And you might need to do more, and that's okay. This stuff is super important. I know it might not feel like this stuff is important because you're like, hey, I'm busy, I'm cutting grass, I'm installing fences, I'm repairing roofs. Like, that stuff is actually making me money. I can't waste time doing office tasks. You might think that's true, but if you don't keep up with it, then you're gonna get stressed out and you're not gonna have accurate data to keep up with. However, if you genuinely don't actually have enough time to do all this stuff, maybe you need to hire somebody, and that's also okay. That's a decision that you need to make. So either do it yourself and do it weekly, or hire an office manager or hire a bookkeeper to do all of this stuff for you. The only thing I caution against is if you do hire an office manager or you do hire a bookkeeper, you still need to manage that person. Still do your due diligence and check in and make sure that they're doing a good job, because ultimately this is your business and you want to make sure that everything is being done correctly.